Based in Finland, very fine place to go, or travel. And so they're talking to bring us now further into the mythological and cosmological world and on to the present. So over to you.
So we will be sharing a few provocations, but also in tribute of our local Welsh host, also offering a few examples on the Mabinogi. That's maybe the connection with this session. Very, very small examples in where we try to interpret some of the themes that have actually come through using Galician ethnography, which is part of the approach we have. So, if I may start, 77 years ago in 1942, Pierre Matres established in a decisive way, in the words of Grenier, the universal, essentially monotheistic, Trinitarian character of Celtic religion. We now show, resting on a lunisolar calendar that we will show through Galician archaeological findings, the genesis of a Celtic, or we will reflect on a Celtic Trinitarian monotheism in the staging of the three steps of the sun, the Lubobis, here in the middle, and the Atlantic perception of the 90-day seasonal cycle, the Matres. And we provide additional insights on the continuity in the religion imposed by Rome and Christianism. Those of you who were in the previous session in the morning where we were discussing some political aspects, you will find some overlap. What some call the Celtic fringe is not limited to music, to myths, to legends, to language, to arts and craft. On the contrary, sinking its roots in the Paleolithic, as we believe, in the Neolithic, the Celts, the first civilization of Europe, above any other consideration, is built upon a common jurisdictional, social, political, and religious structure. And it will be this last that we will be focusing on. Although these aspects are closely interweaved, a small detail often overlooked makes it possible: the existence above the political power of a universal religious control and a common pantheon beyond local cults. We argue that it was this institutional reality which allowed the imposition of a new religion in the 4th century to the decadent Roman Empire. As Dion Chrysostom points out, in Celtic Europe, the political and religious power lay in a universal church, directed by an infallible, most high pontiff, a lifetime summum authoritatem, elected in an ecumenical council by suffragium druidum. Caesar recorded in his commentaries on the Gallic War, at the head of the Druids, a privileged class with priestly and jurisdictional power of the highest precision, an organized, vertical, collegial, interconnected clergy made up of young sons born from noble houses, sent by their families to be skilled in all the fields of science to prestigious international centers, attracted by the fame of their instructors and professors, receiving a regulated education, canonical, universal, equal for all, with common subjects and contents in each and every one of the disciplines. This took place in solid and persistent entities, Druidic international seminars as true universities, as today Oxford or Sorbonne. Think comparatively of the structure and formative system of the Catholic Church with its common theology and canon law that has persisted for millennia. Maybe Mike Parker Pearson was right to say when he was commenting in January 2007 on the excavation of the huge village at Darlington Walls, with more than 1,000 cells of 5 square meters from the final Neolithic and Chalcolithic, and even also possibly from the Bronze Age, 3.2 kilometers from Stonehenge, we think we have found the village of the builders of Stonehenge. But also claiming our right to be wrong, perhaps Pearson also found the cells of the British Druid College, to which geographers, mythographers, and historians of antiquity have referred, including Caesar, Hecateus, or Diodorus, who were undoubtedly in reference to Great Britain, mentioned their existence in front of the West Atlantic coast of Europe. Diodorus refers to the extraordinary islands of the Peborians, as large as Sicily, rich in tin and gold, with a temperate climate capable of producing 2 harvests a year. A sacred island, cradle of the Celtic Leto or Letona. Remember Brigantia, an aspect of the tree of the Matres, which we will later discuss, mother of Celtic Apollo, the sun, and mother of the moon, Selene, adding Diodorus that for this reason Apollo is in permanent worship by an old priestly class. Diodorus describes in detail the very important, rich, congested, and extraordinary circle temple of the sun, maybe Stonehenge, adorned with many votive offerings. He tells us about a city, maybe a monastic centre, inhabited by members of the clergy, students and practitioners of perpetual worship, where almost all are cithar players. When Diodorus says that the moon, seen from the island, seems to be a short distance away, showing visible to the eye prominences similar to those of the earth, Diodorus may refer to the full supermoon of the Metonic year, represented in the megalith monument of a Pena in Nerone in Galicia that we will soon mention with greater detail. It is said that God visits the island every 19-year Metonic cycle and comes up dancing and playing the cithar, matching Caesar's account of the 20-year druidical program of study. Every 19-year, every Metonic year. This is not trivial, since the program of studies in Druidic Centre seems to be conditioned by the observation of the Metonic cycle, the basis of sacred geography on earth as it is in heaven. The Pena site in Rome is an important key to understand the implications of this. Pena is an uncommon megalithic monument, possibly simulating a lunar boat, oriented perhaps from the early Neolithic to the exit of the full moon in the Metonic year. The site concentrates 6 different legends associated with the Celtic concept of sacred kingship, which is an extremely unusual fact. Another example is from Leque dos Almendres in Évora, Portugal, also an observatory with similar characteristics than Stonehenge. Going back to Diodoro, the temple he describes is where at the dawn of the Metonic year, as in Galicia on St. John's Day, the sun rises dancing and playing his cithar. The existence of a Celtic church linked to these learning centres and observatories is important to note before entering our main subject today. Institutional archaeology points toward the evidence of the existence of a Celtic church, universal, organised and hierarchical, a pan-national clergy, which is not restricted to a specific geographical space, such as Gaul, which is custodian of science, public and private law, etc., and a Trinitarian monotheistic religion with a dogmatic theological corpus which is not necessarily associated with popular religious practices. Recalling Caesar again, this Celtic church, universal, organized and hierarchical, had at its head an infallible and undisputable supreme pontiff, elected by suffrage in a druidic conclave, even to the point, as Caesar tells us, to fight through the arms for the principality when there are 2 or more factions in the Celtic church. Each of these factions organize a conclave of its own and chooses its own supreme pontiff. If comparatively, if you excuse us for the a prioristic transposition, we transfer this situation to the Catholic Church, we see it's not uncommon for 2 or more popes to fight for the papacy, as in several occasions in history occurred. The Celtic Church is source of public and private law, judges and magistrates, controlling all the springs of power. The Druids also elect, consecrate and depose kings. So Celtic Europe, no doubt before the Bronze Age, is a mosaic of identical autonomous political territories sharing a common structure, designated through terms taken from the concept of domestic sovereignty, either designating the noble house, Treba, tribus, and variants, contrevia, contributi, cantref, or which is the people, state, or nation, like tua, teuta, toudo, toto, and also their variants. Both sets of terms allude to a tribe, a small state, and this is subject of the other presentation we had in the morning, in front of a noble house, princeps, with divine right to govern. They basically all say the same story, that originates in the marriage of the founder of the royal lineage to the Blessed Mother, the so-called Melusinian theme. The mermaid, Amoda, Rhiannon, the inhabitant of Omorica, the other world under the sea, following John T. Cook, chooses the king that is to govern the Treba, the territory. And at his death, after the king undergoes a test, which is indicated by the comma, the mirror, that we find in funerary stela from the Chalcolithic into the Middle Ages, and also accounted in popular myths such as those of Pena, which we can go into detail if you have interest and we have time. She takes his soul to the beyond on the rump of her mare. In fact, we believe this is ex corruptio linguae, the origin of the story of cailleach, when Rhiannon in the Welsh Mabinogi. Galician ethnography can explain and help understand why Rhiannon enters his guests on horseback into the palace as the beyond. The maps displaying a common political constitution also highlight the uniform religious constitution of Celtic Europe. These political territories can be reconstructed by matching the dioceses and archpriesthoods of the early times of Christianity. The religious jurisdiction headed by a high priest was converted into a diocese in the first stages of Christianity. The Romans, after the conquest, will call these spaces civitates or populi, and with the end of the Roman Empire, these same spaces will continue into the Middle Ages. In this extraordinary shared institutional plot, the Church of Celtic Europe, insular and continental, subtly expressed, as Lambers pointed out in 1942 for gold, the idea of a single divinity in three, the classical pantheon, and of the equanimisms, fetishisms, stone worship, fountains, rivers, trees, mountains, the sun, the moon. But above local cults, Celtic, insular and continental Europe left as a legacy a common pantheon and a Trinitarian monotheistic conception of religion, without which our Christian present would have little meaning. The Celtic religion rests basically on two trios. On the one hand, represented here on the left, is the Lugobis from Lugh, a male trinity personifying the three steps of the sun, a solar father, a solar son, and a solar spirit in the hereafter, judge of the afterlife, staging through the four cycles, the two equinoxes and the two solstices in the year, and also in the day, the three steps of the sun, birth on the horizon, ascent, decay in the sky, and death in the sea at night. And this may have to do also with the Dylan we see in the Mabinogi. On the other hand, a feminine lunar trinity, the trio of the Matres, staging the agricultural perception of the seasons along four cycles of 60 days, beginning on February the 1st with entrance of spring, all the way to the day before, because as it happens today among the Celts, the night precedes the day, which is the imbog, today called Candlemas, converting in Christian present the first matter in a young virgin, Saint Brigid, wet nurse of Christ, and in the Virgin of Candelária, Candlemas. On May the 1st, Beltane, the second matter is shown as a virgin expecting the birth of a child. This is the O, for example, in Spanish, Virgen de la O, Virgin of the O. The birth takes place on August the 1st in Lugnasad, with the fruits of Mother Earth, showing the second matter as a virgin mother. The cycle closes the end of the summer and of the year with the third matter, the Old Virgin, cailleach, veiled with the blue mantle of the sky, the builder of megaliths and of the landscape, on November the 1st with Samhain or Halloween or Eve of All Saints, signaling the entrance of winter space, of a dangerous and out of time. A single divinity is covered by epithets in the Celtic world, but such epithets are not gods. It often occurs that certain virtues or states of the Celtic Trinitarian God are identified as gods or name of gods, like Dawn, Dark, Bandua, Bound, Gormanos, and many others, or with even less logic into mountain names like Larocco, Ladicus, Cannamo, Pixianus, Uxelinus, river names, assimilating the place of the sanctuary with a distinct god. The whole system rests on a single divinity of solar and Trinitarian character, the Lugoves, associated in a symbolic way with a ram. Agni, the sun that becomes ex corruptio linguae, Agnus Dei, the Lamb of God, the luminous Lugh per excellence, from which certain epithets or place names proper to the place where the sanctuaries are located rise. Ego sum lux mundi, but in its original version it was Agni, the sun, dying and renewing himself every day and every year, and not a lamb, Agnus, the good God, staging his willingly accepted sacrifice and resurrection. The light of the world. Recall the Rig Veda, let us adore Agni, the fire, the Son of God. As depicted on the coins of Granada or on the flag of the Isle of Man, in Celtic religion each step of the sun symbolizes a different person from a single god, presiding over the birth, growth, decline, death, and resurrection of all living beings. This can be seen through the Tabla de San Cristobal at the Prado Museum. The tripartite orb on the first partition shows the sky with the sun, moon and star. The second shows the sea and fish, and showing the underworld in the third. The first step, the first person, is John and Vigorous, taking possession of heaven from dawn to noon throughout the day, from Christmas to St. John, the solstices, throughout the year. The first step unfolds with a series of epithets, the vigorous, youthful, quarrelsome, and healthy aspect of God. The second step, his death, that now acquires a psychopomp aspect, transforming his rays into feet that are projected and printed on the stones, showing the way to the beyond. Like Ogmios, the way converted by interpretatio into the Gallic Hercules or Hermes Psychopomp, conductor of souls, or Setanta or Setanda, the wanderer, the walker, helping with his vital, carrying souls as birds on their shoulders, descending to the boat that always awaits him every sunset in the Atlantic. To take him to Bella Briga, Alta Casa, high house at the top of the island. It is in the early days of Christianity, 4th century AD, Berobreo or Berobriogo, high host of souls, or Macayon in Old Irish Briogu, meaning hospitaller. And also in an inscription we find in cailleach, Deo Bestio Alonienko, host and nourisher of souls. Or, like in the dying Esus, good God, as represented by the iconography, staging his passion by cutting timber from the tree of life, here on the right, in which he will die, crucified, or by staging the army, the choreo, his royal burial, by passing his lifeless body through the gate of the city. Now we're finishing. This hornet Cernuno seemed to be a difficult to solve mystery. His Buddha-like pose, holding the torque and the snake in the famous Wunderstruck cauldron, escorted by the animals, the lion, the bull, and marine creatures that take us to the Omorica underwater underworld, remind us, in spite of the distance and religion, to the judging Pantocrator surrounded by the tetramorphs. A clue to solve the mystery can be found in the Galician version of the demand for the Holy Grail, when Percival follows a great white deer that is escorted by 4 lions until it enters a chapel. The deer turns then into a man, Esus, and sits on a chair placed on the altar, while the 4 lions become 4 colossal figures: Agnus, lion, eagle, and bull. They all disappear, while a voice explains how this was how the Son of God entered in the Blessed Virgin. Esus takes the form of a white deer, renouncing his material body, just as the deer detaches itself from its skin, so Jesus, leaving his human skin, returns to spiritual form. In his study of the Wild Hunt, Jacob Grimm points out the solar character of the leader of the army of the dead, Odin, degraded by Christianity to the ghostly realm. Christianism integrated many elements of Celtic religion, but also left many others behind. While Jesus is born to the Virgin in a precise historical moment, Esus would return annually to the womb of the Blessed Mother, conceived in the course of one night, to be born again on December 25th, and to begin the cycle, an annual cycle without beginning or end. The similarity between the two religions, so to say, facilitated the imposition of the new religion, Christianity, by decadent Rome in the 4th century, and the conversion of the Celtic and Germanic peoples. The folk keep a good part, almost all in reality, of the celebrations and popular representations, adopting the Catholic space. Can we see the quote? Yes. The Catholic Church, the space, the millennia-old festive calendar, the saints, Candlemas, Christmas, the Passion, All Hallows Eve, and also the organizational structure of the Celtic Church, of which we will see an example. As J. Carney argues for the first Irish Christian bishops, an Olaf is many things to a king or prince, but I would say that he is most significantly the shadow of a high-ranking pagan priest or druid. Finally, the continuing links between this church is exemplified by the formation of the Britannia diocese in Galicia in the 5th century AD. Fleeing with emperors by the Anglo-Saxon excidio et conquesto Britannia, the refugees were welcomed and received with open arms by the Swabian kingdom of Galicia. The diocese of Lugo gave the fleeing bishop and the British refugees their Trebas or archpriesthoods of Trasancos, Lapatiancos, Arotrevas, Iadoni, Bibari, Namarini, Sibarcos, and Albiones. So with these territories, they could create their own episcopal see, called Britannia, that was later to be headed by Bishop Milo. Although no longer a residential bishopric, Britannia is still today one of Galicia's titular sees. I think with this we can finish, and I leave the floor also to André for any questions or comments, or if we're too late, that we can have.
Thank you very much.
Is that open?
Yes, I think.